Good evening, everybody. It is Tequila here with Unbreathable. And I told you all that we were going to start a series on um, YouTube, on my YouTube station called Back to the Basics, because I have so many people that ask me all the time about just the basics of wreathing and different things of that nature. These videos are intended to be instructional and tutorial and informational for you. And my plan is not to go over 20 minutes in the Back to the Basics series. Okay. So let me get started and we're going to go through these. And so if there are questions, I'll come back and answer them um, once the video is over, as not to interrupt as people are coming in or watching. Okay. So let's get started. Oh my goodness, when I went to start pulling out the different mesh, I was like, oh my gosh, there are really different mesh. So if you're just getting started, it could be a little overwhelming as to what to use when, right? So we have a couple of things. The very first mesh, and I'm going to turn my camera down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And you can see I've got it all on my table. So the very first mesh is the basic mesh. Your basic mesh, let me get this out of your way. Your basic mesh is just what it calls a basic mesh. It is a thin mesh that you use. And how I like to think about basic is to build on. Basic equals build. So your basic mesh is very thin. You see? You can see through it. Out of all the mesh that we're going to see today, the basic is the most or the least expensive of it. And you can use it. It's very stiff, but there's no flare or anything to the basic mesh. So your basic mesh is the mesh that you want to build on, guys. Okay? So then it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the basic mesh. It just means that when you're using the basic mesh, you want to use it as your base because you want to build on top of it. It will assist with giving your design some depth. Okay? So I'm going to take this one off. The next mesh that you would be using is a Deco mesh with a metallic base. So it would be something like this. You see, and it's called metallic basic mesh. And the reason that it is called, and I have one that is open, is because it has stripes of metallic through it. You know, different type of metallic stripes through it, which gives it makes it a little bit more sturdy. It makes your designs a little bit more pretty. It gives just a little bit more flair. A lot of times if they're using metallic, it's silver, gold, or it's a different color to offset the base color of the mesh, okay? It's almost like your basic. It's in the same family, okay? So that's a good one. Remember, with your basic mesh, you want to build off of it. Okay, so then we have, let me find it. So another thing I want to tell you is that we have mesh. It's going to be 21 inches long, 21 inches long. And we have mesh that is 10 inches long, okay? And then occasionally you will find a 14-inch mesh, okay? So your 14-inch, your 10-inch mesh are a great mesh to use for ruffles. Your 21-inch, you use it for your base, you use it for the Jackie weave, the poof curl method. You get more length and width at the same time with a 21-inch mesh, okay? So I wanted to point that it can come in 3 sizes. And they also have 6-inch mesh, guys, that people use as well. A lot of times you'll find a 6-inch in Walmart or the Dollar Tree, but people often do use that mesh as accents. I would only use it as accent. I would not use a 16-inch mesh for a ruffle that I'm doing for my design. Okay. So the next one is the basic mesh with the foil thread. So as you can see, this is the basic mesh, and it has the foil thread all the way through it. This is when you're moving up to a different quality mesh. You see it's a little bit shinier, it's a little bit thicker. So this is the basic with the foil thread. This mesh comes in 21 inches and 10 inches as well. Okay. So then you have, I'm trying to take them off the table as I go, guys. So then we have this one, which is the wide foil mesh. And so this mesh is a step up from the basic, and I'll open it up. And you have more of your metallic stripes in it, in addition to your wide foil stripe as well. You see? This is a great wreath-based mesh. It is great for poof curl method. It's great for the jacket weave. It gives you an accent. So when you're using a mesh like this, guys, you don't want to cover it completely up with ruffles or ribbon. You want to make sure people can see it, because this is a more expensive mesh, and a lot of times it is more of a glitzy, prettier mesh. Okay, so I'm going to take that one off. This one is wide, and you cannot see through this once you get it on your wreath frames. Okay, so then we have the basket weave mesh. Okay, so this is, you would use this mesh as accent pieces only, guys. You would not use this mesh to do a whole wreath, because number one, it's very expensive. Even buying it wholesale, this roll of mesh is like almost $8. Okay, so you want to use it sparingly. But you could use it absolutely for ruffles, and it will fray. So you want to be mindful. I'm not going to cut it today because, like I said, it's expensive. But you want to be mindful when you go to cut it that you're cutting it on the seam. You don't want to cut it in the middle of the seam, because it gives it more room to fray. Okay. So you want to make sure you're cutting this on the seam. And this is called a basket weave mesh. And this one is a burlap, poly burlap basket weave. So this is a higher quality mesh. It is absolutely a accent mesh. Okay. I'm gonna move that over there. Then let's see. We have what they called a snowball burlap mesh. You could use, they have snowball mesh. I don't have any, but it's just a regular Deco mesh, and it has what they consider as the snowball throughout it. And this is a good accent mesh to use as well. Okay. So then up from the snowball, you have this is called snow drift mesh. And so what this is that it is the Deco mesh, and then you have the threads of the snow drift through it. You see the lines that's going through it? Yep. So this is a good mesh to use for your ruffles. In your design, you can use it, even though it says snowball, you can use it in, of course, your holiday wreaths, your winter wreaths, anything black and white, you can use it. Okay, so this is a splatter mesh. This mesh comes in 6 inches. It comes in 10 inches. And now, well, now it comes in 10 inches. It used to come in 21 inches, and then you'd have to cut it down, but now it comes in 10 inches. Look at that. Can you see? And then, of course, the 6-inch roll. This is absolutely an accent mesh. You can use it to put in your bows. You can use it to add to your designs. You don't want to use it as a base because look how thin it is. It's a mixture of tulle and I'll just say paint splatters. It's not paint, but it's thick and it's hard. It's not coming off. But it's so thin, if you can see that you don't want to use it but to base or your project base. You want to use this mesh accent. Okay, let's see. So then we have a poly burlap mesh. This is more of a burlap mesh that you're using. I will tell you when you're using this mesh, you got to be careful because this burlap gets in your throat. Every time I use burlap, I don't care if it's just the basic brown, I immediately, when I finish, have to wash my hands because something about it irritates my hands. I don't know if it's the burlap or the dye. So you want to just be mindful when you're using it, but this is a good thick mesh. You also could use that's really good for ruffles. And you could use this for your woodland ruffles. I like using it for woodland ruffles because it is very thick and you cannot see through it. Okay. So then this one is a frayed edge burlap. Let me open this up. When you get to your burlap, guys, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but they're so worth it. This one, I initially was afraid to work with it. I'll open it up just a little bit. So you see you have your burlap and then your ends are frayed. And it doesn't come loose. It's really good. This is good for fall designs. It is good for beach designs. It's just a good mesh to use. It comes in 10 inches and 21 inches. So if you're looking for reef supplies for fall or the beach or summer, this is a good one to put you in mind of hay or sand. Okay, this is a good one. So then let's see what else we got. We talked about the splatter mesh. We talked about the snowball mesh. We talked about the jute. So this is a basic mesh ruffle with mesh ribbon and jute in it. So it's just a basic ruffle. It kind of simulates the burlap, but it is mesh. So it gives you still that burlap feel, but not quite as expensive as the burlap. Okay. Let's see. Then you have, we talked about the drift mesh and the snowball mesh, which these both are. This is snowdrift. This is the snowball again. These are great for accents. They're less fraying if you want to use those. This is a fabric mesh. And let's see if I can get it open. This mesh, I got this from Hobby Lobby. This is a thicker mesh. Your fabric mesh should be thicker. Like this is a fabric mesh. But look how thick. You cannot see through this at all, guys. It is a great mesh. It is also a little bit more on the expensive side of the mesh family. Oh, and I pulled this one out because this is burlap. It's not a mesh, but I still wanted to show you because people are making burlap wreaths. But this is a burlap. This is a 6-inch burlap, and people use this in the pull through method, the bubble method. If you're making door signs, you can use it for your ribbon that's going to go on your signs. It's a good thing to use. It's not a deco mesh. This is a burlap. Okay. So these are just your basic mesh. And guys, let me tell you, there's still so many more mesh that we did not go over, right? So many more that we didn't see. So this is not everything, but it's just to give you a just a small tutorial or glimpse into the different types of mesh that you can use. One of my tips I would tell you is remember basic is to build on. If you're using a basic mesh, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but you want to utilize your basic as your base, and then you want to build on it. The more you touch your basic mesh, the more it's going to fray. With any mesh that you use, just remember that you're the designer and there are no limits to what you want to do with your designs, okay? So I hope that was helpful, and you guys have a great day, and I'll see you back for our next tutorial.